Stalled? How to boost your confidence and take action. I'm Rick from Thriving Now, and I'm here with Kathy Bartuli from the Intimacy Dojo and Thriving Now. And I want to start, Kathy, with an important question. What does it mean to stall?
It's hard when you're stalled. We're the way we were defining it. We're not saying that you're actually like in flight, freeze, like a full freeze mode. You're not like so terrified your brain doesn't work, but you keep thinking about that thing you want to do and you're just not moving forward. I really want to, during the pandemic, I was often stalled. I would walk past the same bit of laundry for 2 months, literally, and it would just sit there. And it wasn't that I was terrified to move it. I wasn't afraid of moving it, but I just never reached out my hand and picked it up and put it in the laundry. And it just felt like I just wasn't getting some movement forward. And it was challenging to look at this because I consider myself someone who gets stuff done. That's my identity, is I get things done. And to find, like the first week it was like, oh, it's a pandemic. The second week it's like, it's a pandemic. The third week I'm like, what is going on with me? Like, am I broken? Did the pandemic break me? And just each time I walked past it, it kind of sucked a little energy out of me. So I was stalled around that particular thing in a way that it didn't feel good to my identity. It wasn't helping me feel good in my home. And it was pulling some energy from my life, but I wasn't so stuck that I couldn't move. I wasn't stuck in concrete. I just couldn't get the car in gear, so to speak.
Yeah. So we have a video out on the center that talked about like what our differentiation between a block and being stuck and stalled. A lot of times I think that in personal development, especially in EFT tapping work, we talk about, getting unstuck. And it's really useful for that. And we're going to be going into that in other workshops. Like when you're really stuck, when you're like fight, flight, freeze, bouncing around, just like, But here, as Kathy said, it can be something that matters to you, like a clean house. It can be something that you want to write, a message that you want to write to someone that you care about, or to pick up the phone and call. It can be to get started or restarted on a book that you want. A stall says that it's still alive in me. I think about it. I am wanting it. There's something about it that matters to me, but I'm not actually taking action. And, one of the images, and I talked about this in the story, is that, you're going along and then often things stop. So this is again, like, I believe that if you're doing anything that matters, maybe it's learning to express yourself on a guitar. Maybe it is learning to love in a way that's unique and different compared to how horrible you were treated as a child. Whatever it is, you get some progress and then it's like, ugh, you don't have the energy. In fact, there's a drain. And that's what you said, Kathy. It's like you keep thinking about it, there's an aliveness to the idea. You're not just like running from it, so it's not even aware of it. Um, but it takes energy. Every day that goes by, there's kind of an energy depletion. And that's why the real skill of being able to be present with things that we're stalled around with more depth. And that taps into what we're learning about how to calm the noise and how to build up some confidence and clarity so that the action comes from a different place.
And we're going to
And
give you some really concrete steps to do that. I put in the chat thrivingnow.com/grounding. Sometimes when it's actually a fight, flight, freeze, a big trauma, we dissociate. So we may on the surface not be aware. We may feel like a stall. And when we start getting a little deeper, we may realize there's some trauma there, some old fears. And so those grounding exercises are great if you start digging down a little bit and find out there are some bigger fears. And these steps work really well for this too. But this is something you can do. Like what we're going to show today is something to get you going in a way that feels authentic and aligned and alive for you, so that you don't have to spend 2 months walking past the dirty socks there, or the video you meant to edit, or the piano lesson you just wanted to spend 5 minutes doing, whatever it is. And often when we just get a little bit of movement, just like a stalled car, if you push it a little bit on, you're on a little bit of a hill and you push, you can pop it and the engine will go. So we want to get you so your engines are going, so you can easily drive in the direction you want.
We use a tool, an emotional technology called EFT tapping. If you're not familiar with it, we're not going to be teaching it today, but you can listen and follow along, speak the words, and tap on the points relative to where we are. But thrivingnow.com/tapping is our free guide. And you can look at that and learn a lot about how and why we use this tool. So Kathy, if somebody's stalled, does it mean that they're a bad and horrible and incompetent and stupid person? Like
Yes,
I've sometimes called
absolutely.
myself
Only if
after a
it's me
week.
though. You all are great people. If I'm stalled, that dirty piece of laundry was proof positive that I was an evil person and not very competent in life. And our brains do that. We've kind of, in our society, and many of the way our parents and caregivers have raised us is using adrenaline and that whip to get us to do things. So, like, let's make ourselves do it. You would never leave dirty laundry out. What if someone came by? What are people going to think of you? You've got to be a good person. You've got to be good all the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of us have this internalized voice that's like, come on, how come you can't do it? Just type it up, just push through, get her done. And too many of us are exhausted, worn out, and doing things that don't matter to us because of that voice in our head. It can cause illness, it can cause stress, induced all kinds of stuff. And what we're going to help you do, and Rick is so beautiful at doing this, is tuning into the why, the joy in it, letting go of some of that noise and that voice. And please realize the voice in your head is not bad either. One of the things that Rick and I really believe in is no part left behind. Like that part of us that's like, get her done, come on. It internalized that when we were little, and it's trying to keep us out of trouble. It's trying to voice that internally before the people around us voice it. It's trying to protect us. So
Yeah.
we're going to do some work on that to help that voice calm down, because it creates a lot of noise. And it's sometimes really hard to hear the joy and the free will beneath that when that voice for many of us is very loud.
Well, that's a great place for us to start. One of the things that we do with this work is to notice, like, okay, when I've been stalled in the past, like, what do I say to myself? How do I try to prod, poke, um, insist, whip on, whatever it is?
You're welcome to
Just
share that in the chat too, because that can
yes,
really, seeing other people that you're not alone, seeing other people have similar voices, or pointing out ones that are so constant for you that you don't even hear them anymore, like that fish in water. You see someone else say it and you're like, oh, I do that too. That's really powerful. That awareness can give you traction where you didn't have any.
Mm.
All
So even though
right.
it's uncomfortable, we're inviting you, if you feel up
Mhm.
to it. Uh,
So yeah, so my voice isn't driving me. It's telling me not to because I'll fail. I know part of me, sorry, I need to wear my glasses apparently. I know part of why I'm stalled, fear. This is already soothing and we haven't even started tapping. Thank you so much for this topic. Fear of the big mistakes I make before and it will happen again. I put so much pressure on myself all the time. And we can be exhausted. If we're driving ourselves, like we have jobs, we have kids, we have homes, we have all these obligations. Sometimes we're stalled because we're really out of gas.
yeah. And sometimes we're stalled because we're overheated with something like overwhelm. And and again, like I know not everyone looks at it this way, but the voice in our head that is telling us not to do something is driving us. It's just driving us away from something that matters. And so it's the same kind of thing. It's a seeking of protecting, what is the least amount of pain? Either avoid it or force you to do it, kind of thing. Would you lead us in taking into account some of the things that we're getting lots of good
Yeah, that's
feedback? Thank
great.
you all. This feels really
Yeah.
good to Kathy and I to hear and feel what's alive for you. Would you be willing to start us off with The first level of calming,
Yeah.
this is a be calm and confident workshop. It's a real skill. And so the first thing is we kind of start with however intense we are,
Mhm.
and we start quieting the noise and calming a bit.
Yeah. So what I'd like you to do, if you're willing, is to bring your attention here. Sometimes if we've been doing something for a little while, we're not as present with it. Or if you're new to this might be a little scary. But I invite you to bring your attention here. Let the cats on Facebook rest for the next hour and a half. We're going to let them, they'll still be there, I promise. There'll be lots of cats on Facebook, even an hour and a half from now. And just notice where you're sitting. Now, our survival brain, especially when it's activated, when there's a lot of noise, it thinks there's danger. It thinks there's lions and tigers and dragons. So I invite you to take a nice, slow, deep breath. Nice. And now look around your room where you're sitting and notice the lack of lions or tigers or threatening tigers. I know someone has a pretty cat on the screen. Those are nice. No dragons. No one's about to attack you. You're safe here and you can really let yourself process. And if you would, just notice where you're sitting, that your butt is supported, your feet are supported. Maybe notice the texture under your toes and just let yourself be with your body. Take another slow, deep breath. We're going to start tapping karate chop, even though I have a lot of noise in my head.
Even though I have a lot of noise in my head.
One side is telling me to get everything done now.
One side is telling me, get it done now.
Another side is saying, no way, stop right away.
Stop, stop, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
It's like I have my foot on the brake and the gas at the same time.
It's like I have my foot on the brake and the gas at the same time.
No wonder I'm not going anywhere.
No wonder I'm not going anywhere.
Even though it's really noisy in my head.
Even though it's really noisy in my head.
Part of me really wants to make progress.
Part of me so wants to make progress.
And another part doesn't want to go anywhere.
Another part of me is not wanting to go anywhere.
What if both of those parts really care about me?
What if both of those parts really care about me?
They want me to be safe
They want me to be safe
and successful.
and successful.
Even though my survival brain really wants me to be safe,
Even though my survival brain really wants me to be safe.
it doesn't necessarily know what's right for me right now.
It doesn't necessarily know what's right for me right now.
It might be running on old messages
Pretty sure it runs on some old messages
from when I was 2 and 3 and 4.
when I was 2 and 3 and 4 and more.
Top of the head. I have a lot of noise in my head.
I have a lot of noise in my head. No wonder I'm stalled.
Eyebrow. I'm afraid of moving forward.
I'm afraid of moving forward.
Side of the eye, and I'm frustrated that I haven't moved forward.
And I'm frustrated that I haven't moved forward.
Under the eye, and part of me thinks I should have moved forward.
And part of me thinks I should have moved forward.
Under the nose, and part of me is afraid I'm a bad person because I haven't moved forward.
And part of me thinks I'm a bad person because I haven't moved forward.
Chin, I really meant to get that done.
I really meant to get that done.
Collarbone, and I'm not sure why it hasn't happened.
And I'm not sure why it hasn't happened.
Under the arm, what if I took a moment just right now?
What if I took a moment just right now?
Top of the head, and let myself be quiet.
And let myself be quiet.
Take a nice deep breath. The truth is, often if we can get beneath the noise in our survival brain, the part of us that has internalized all these voices, we can find our own heart. And when we're trying to drive ourselves out of fear or adrenaline, we're not often connected with our own passion, with our own engine. And so if we can kind of still that and just notice for a minute, what if there is a message under that? What if there's a direction that I want to go?
So one of the things you might be noticing about the tapping that we did was that there's conflict. Like the desire to move forward, we're assuming that what we're tapping on here is about something that matters to you. It can be something else, but I'd like for our work tonight and today, whenever you're watching this, for it to be something that, yeah, I actually want that. And there's a conflict, like we have associations from the past, we have fears and uncomfortablenesses. And again, that this is a continuum between stalled to stuck to blocked. So like I'm seeing in some of the chats something like, I don't want it to happen like last time. To me, that is a stuck. There's a lot of energy around it. And if you have a last time where you paid a big price, we're going to be, a lot of the work that we do is around that kind of trauma. But one of the things, if you're stalled around something and you know that, like, wow, I have so much energy of no way about that, recognize that I'm actually not stalled here, I'm stuck. And that benefits from professional support and amount of thoroughness, like writing out exactly what happened last time, reading it aloud, telling the story to yourself about what happened and how you felt and how you feel about it now. And doing that 5, 6, 10, 12 times over the course of 2 weeks. Why? Because if working hard and really activating a lot of your talent, but in a very unbalanced way, nearly cost you your life and your well-being, or it cost you a relationship or all your savings, whatever it was, that's a big deal. And so we're going to be working on our next workshop we'll have around pain and trauma, and we'll be touching on some of those. We have some other resources, so feel free in the center to be more specific about it. If you're really feeling stuck or blocked, we can point you to some of those.
Yeah,
So
I'm putting the center, thrivingnow.center is a great place to get emotional support and share and be connected with people between the calls, which
yeah,
I've found really helpful in the past.
and we have 3 steps, and I'm actually drawn, we have a hand raised. Are you okay with, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Margot, would you unmute and join us? Yay, hi.
Hi.
What are you noticing?
So for me, it's like I got told forever growing up, don't do that, you'll fail. Or if I was doing something, stop doing that, you're failing. Or if I'd done something, it was, well, you failed at that. And it was
So-
like I could never do, it was like being inside a maze and just trying to find my way out. And just everywhere I went, I bumped into a wall till I just finally shut down.
Yeah, that part of me is blocked.
That part of me is blocked.
Everywhere I went, I hit a wall.
Everywhere I went, I hit a wall.
They were really good at boxing me in,
They were
blocking me in.
blocking me in.
Things that weren't even a failure were called failures.
Things that weren't even a failure were called failures.
Things that I was safe to try, they said, what? What were their words?
Literally, don't do that, you'll fail.
Don't do that, you'll fail.
Or like my dad would grab things out of my hands and say, you're going to break that. Don't touch it.
Yeah. And what would you call that now from the vantage point that you're in now? What would you call that kind of attitude toward life and trying things and
I mean, my attitude,
their
or,
attitude?
Cruel, manipulative, negative.
Yeah. They were really they were really neurotic.
They were really neurotic.
They didn't trust me with anything.
They didn't trust me.
And it was really cruel.
And it was worse because I was a girl.
Yeah. And I'm inviting a part of me to see that I am not blocked in that same way now.
I'm inviting a part of me to see I'm not blocked in that same way now.
And that makes me feel
Scared.
Yeah. It's scared not to be blocked in.
Scared not to be blocked in because I also never really got any guidance. So then it's like, then I just feel like my indoor cat that somehow ended up outdoors one day. And she'd been out there for an hour by the time I realized it, and she was still frozen in the driveway. Just like, I don't know what's going
And I'm here doing this weird tapping thing.
on. I'm here doing this weird tapping thing.
What if the scared
There's
feeling
not
is
one person here.
not what?
I was going to say, and I know no one in this group is sitting here thinking that I'm a failure.
Yeah. I bet they think I'm pretty courageous.
They might think I'm pretty courageous. And maybe some of them will raise their hands too.
Yeah. I'm not actually in that box.
Not actually in that box anymore.
And that scared feeling isn't my guidance.
Yeah, that scared feeling is not my guidance.
That scared feeling is not my guidance, one way or the other.
Yeah, that scared feeling is not my guidance one way or another.
I'm wondering if I can offer you a visualization, Margot.
Sure.
Can you, it may help to close your eyes or not as you feel drawn, but when you were little, this little bead was wandering around and hitting wall after wall. And I just wonder if you can invite her to notice that, maybe look at your hands or look at yourself in the video, and let her notice that you're not so small anymore, that you're not so tall, that you're much taller. So can you visualize this little girl wandering around a maze? She has no guidance because she can't see out of it or over it. And now all of a sudden you're 3 feet taller and looking down, and you can see out of the maze, you can see easily where to step. And she doesn't have to be blocked anymore.
Actually, I just kind of pictured myself looking over the top going, hey, it gets better.
Yeah.
We're much bigger now.
Yeah, and you can see where is a good place to go. Before, the maze was probably blocking your view, and it's like, I have no idea where to go. And now you're in a place where you go, oh, I want to go that way. I felt really drawn. I kept getting that visual, and I wanted to offer that to the little part of you that's felt really stuck and blocked.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Margot.
Thanks.
Now, I want to honor that, one of the things that is part of just being human, especially people that tend to be the type of people that do this work, we've often experienced some really hard times. And so we can be stalled around something. And as Kathy mentioned, we start going a little deeper, and there's the block. And just to kind of make it, because this is a workshop, I want to note that one of the things that Kathy and I did was to say, oh, that sensation of fear, that scared feeling, which I'm not speaking for Margot, but I know for myself, there was a kind of childhood scared feeling that feels different than if I run across a copperhead on the trail. Now, or like actually I'm driving too fast for the road conditions. Like there's a sensation, I'll call it scared, but it doesn't feel like I'm 7. And so that's one of the ways that we can then encourage, hey, dear heart, things have changed. And that's what Kathy brought in as a visualization and other things. That's some of the skill of together, as Margot modeled for us, as well as individually, like, oh, there's this block. I spent so many years in the block area that it's always going to be kind of, probably always, maybe always, going to be a part of the landscape, but letting it be as archaic as we can make it. It's like, oh, okay, here's where I am now. Was that clear enough?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit, just another comment to the other side. There's part of us that's afraid to move forward often. And on the other side, we may be putting too much pressure on something. So for me, if I had cleaned up the socks, I think it would have, they were just sitting there. And it would have taken me literally 30 seconds and an ounce of energy to move them. But because I felt somewhat trapped because of COVID and out of control, to me, moving them meant I was going to be all the safe, everything would be fixed again. So I was putting too much on them. And often we'll do that if we want to release a blog or a podcast or practice the piano. It's going to be like, oh, I'm going to practice this for like 15 minutes and I'm going to be a rock star. Or I'm going to release this one blog post and I'm going to be really important and I'll be successful in my business, versus it's often a lot of little baby steps we have to take to move forward. And if we're putting a lot of pressure on that one thing, a lot of like expectation, our survival brain or subconscious maybe putting the brakes on, because it's like, well, that's not true. You're going to be so disappointed if you put that go forward. You release
Yeah.
that post, or you put the socks in the laundry, and then all of a sudden you realize that you're alone and there's COVID, and you're like, it was kind of keeping the wall up. I could blame the socks, focus them on the socks rather than facing my own fears. Or, and I know people do this sometimes, like, I promised my mother I would do this thing, and I have to, it puts so much pressure that there's no way to move forward, or it would mean so much to this person or to me to do this, that we can overwhelm ourselves. It's like, if you imagine that you're driving this pickup and you're stalled, if you just loaded 10 tons of cement in the back, maybe that poor little pickup can't quite carry that much, versus like, oh, I'm just doing a baby step towards what I want to create. This doesn't have to be the whole thing in this one moment.
Mhm. Which actually is part of like our reorientation that we do in step 3. So a little free frame there. So we've taken kind of the big noise and we've done a little bit on it. And the idea here is that we're starting to invite the body out of primitive brain if it was there. So that now we're going to be more in the kind of like, well, I'm actually stalled here, and not in the primitive brain overwhelm, fear, flight, freeze, plays. If you're in fight, flight, freeze, that's your one job. It's not to get the job done. If you get it done, will probably still leave you with a lot of those remnants. So that's why I believe that whether we're in this together or I'm coping with something myself. If I'm in fight, flight, freeze, that's my only job, is to regulate myself. And then I get to a place where I can recognize that there's something that matters to me, that I am legitimately stalled around. And that's our like, hopefully that's where you are. If you need to take a moment and continue to tap your collarbone, ground yourself, breathe. And I'd like you to, we're inviting you to pick something for the workshop that matters to you, that you could say that you're stalled. Maybe you've been stalled for a day. Maybe you've been stalled for a few weeks, month, several months. If it's so big that you feel like I've been stalled on this for my whole life, I'm going to invite you to make it much more of a something you can hold in your hand, something that you're aware of that matters, that you'd like to be able to take an action of some kind that's a yes for you. And again, as soon as and I invite you to write it down. There is something about the act. If you can't write it down on paper because it's not available to you, close your eyes if you can and visualize it being written down.
You're welcome to share with us too, because we love.
Yep.
Often one of the reasons we love group work is by sharing it in front of other people, especially when it's a loving, caring group like this. It's often very, very healing. So you're definitely not required to, but writing it down here and getting it out of your head in front of the group in the chat can be really healing. Your survival brain will often not feel quite so alone or isolated. And I know I can be in my head and it can just spin forever. But if I tell even one person, sit down with Rick, and I'm like, oh, I can't move the socks. He's like, oh, okay. I love you anyway. And I'm like, oh, I can move the socks. Sometimes that can happen just by sharing it. It doesn't feel quite so overwhelming.
So if piano is the thing, now someone said that they've been blocked for over a decade. So you can say, what if I played a note on the piano? And allow yourself to feel whatever you feel about doing a very small thing. Someone mentioned a collage and vision board, and can't bring myself to stick the pieces down. Now that to me is a perfect example of a block, I mean, of a stall,
Yeah.
because I'm really curious, like, how does the energy actually want to move there? It's very interesting to me. Like, oh, I have this vision board, these pieces. The act of sticking them into a place is not happening. What's up with that? What's up with that is a really interesting kind of thing. So whatever it is for you, like I'm going to write down as part of the Real Skills workshop, there's a section on grounding for calm and confidence, which is a little different. And I've been wanting to move that forward for about 2.5 weeks. And so then once I write it down, once you write it down too, notice what comes alive in your body. What sensations? Is there a tension? Is there a what? Feel free to share that too. And how intense is it, 0 to 10?
Yeah, and I want to appreciate someone wrote the chat. Chat actually sometimes makes me feel blocked. I feel stalled that I'm not significant enough as others who are more active. And I think we're all doing that to ourselves. We'll look at other people and I'll say, oh, Margot has this beautiful backdrop and Noreen painted that picture. And like, you know, there's all these things going on that we're judging. Now look at Drew's smile. Like we're constantly comparing ourselves to each other. And one of the things we've created here is a really beautiful space where we just get to be ourselves. And what the competition is here is how well we're taking care of ourselves. And are we being vulnerable when it feels appropriate for us? Are we risking a little bit, but still taking care of ourselves? That's the challenge here, not who's got the glitziest backdrop or who made $1 million last week or who can tout whatever they're doing the best. This is about being real with each other and being real in the moment and actually clearing and healing, creating pathways for yourself that will last a lifetime. Rick and I are not people that are looking for the glitz and the glamour. We're looking for real people with heart and soul that want to be here in the moment. And that's one thing when someone was talking about the piano, playing the piano, and they were afraid they couldn't actually feel the music. This is an in the moment thing. Can I be real now? How about now? Can I be in the moment now? How about now? And I think I had an impression a lot when I was younger that if I could just do it really well once, I was there. I was going to be there. Versus, oh, I did it pretty well. Can I do it now? How about now? It's just in the moment as we go forward. And it's really easy to compare to other people and look for the best in each of the people we see on the video and make ourselves feel small. And yet we can also, that can stall us. That can really hold us up because our brain is so busy comparing and, wow, I don't measure up in any way. Why am I even here? Why am I trying? That is an old tactic. It's a survival brain tactic and it really works. It keeps us small and quiet like a rabbit in the bushes. It keeps us safe and quiet, but it's not very fulfilling. It's better than being eaten by a wolf, but it's not better than living a thriving life in the moment, loving each other and being real.
Kathy.
Okay.
So I'd like to lead a tapping just to recognize that there's something that matters to you that you feel stalled about and that there's a history. Okay. And even though I have this history
Even though I have this history
of not getting it done
of not getting it done
or not engaging,
and not engaging,
and I have feelings about that.
and I have feelings about that.
I'm open to being present with it right now.
I am open to being present with it right now.
Even though the past right now is really loud,
Even though the past right now is really loud.
what hasn't been done, what hasn't been done. Yeah.
What about what hasn't been done?
And I'm aware of some traumas here too.
And I am aware of some traumas here too.
Whatever matters to me is different than that.
Whatever happened to me is different than that.
Whatever matters to me now
Oh, whatever matters to me now.
is different than it was back then.
It is different than it was back then.
I'm calming myself now.
I am calming myself now.
Eyebrow. This matters to me now.
This matters to me now.
Side of the eye. The past is so noisy.
The past is so noisy.
And it's past.
And it's past.
I acknowledge the unwanted reality
I acknowledge the unwanted reality
then that I've been stalled about this.
that I'm installed about this.
What if it's okay to calm myself right now
What if it's okay to calm myself right now
and get clarity about why this matters to me?
and get clarity about why this matters to me?
I'm actively choosing to calm the noise.
I'm actively choosing to calm the noise.
So you'll notice there, and just check in with your body as you think about this one thing that matters to you. Does it still feel the same in your body? If you get distracted out to this trauma from the past, I'm going to invite you, if you can, to say, oh, yeah, that's there. I'm going to write it down because it's important. I need to do the trauma work on that. But this thing matters, and there's probably something that I could do in 10, 20 minutes that is not going to risk life, limb, property, money, or my health. 20 minutes. There's probably something, if it matters to me, that I could do in 20 minutes. And so I'm giving myself a space, a container to take something that's stalled and quiet down the noise that's outside of a 20-minute space that you're going to have at some point. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'll also invite you. I noticed what a lot of people are sharing, like you were talking about feeling into your body, Rick. It's great that we notice what's going on in our head, our thoughts, but it's also equally important to feel what's happening in your body. It might be, I was noticing when you were tapping, Rick, I was noticing a lot of heaviness and kind of stuck feeling. I was noticing, I imagine that I'm getting it from the group as well. Like when you notice your body, it helps you get out of just your spinning thoughts. And our spinning thoughts can suck us away. So, and we often don't want to feel that feeling, that stuck feeling, or whatever we're noticing, the heaviness, tension. Humans don't like to feel those feelings, so we tend to distract ourselves. And sometimes if we can just be with the feelings and breathe and maybe do a little tapping, they pass through. They don't pass through if we're distracting or running away. Yeah, so I just invite you to notice the feelings you have in your body as well.
So would you like to lead us just another quick tapping on the feelings in my body and being with them right now, that it's okay?
Yeah, karate chop. When I think of this stalled space,
When I think of the stalled space,
and all I haven't gotten done,
all I haven't gotten done,
I feel a lot of heaviness in my body.
I feel a lot of heaviness in my body.
I feel tired.
How did you guess? I feel tired
And tense at the same time.
and tense at the same time.
How come?
How come?
I don't like this feeling.
I don't like this feeling.
It feels sticky and heavy.
It's my energy system stalling. It feels sticky and heavy. And
And I want to run away and watch TV.
I want to run away and watch TV or something.
What if I just stayed with this feeling for just a moment?
What if I stayed with this feeling for just a moment longer?
What if I took a deep breath into it?
What if I took a deep breath into it?
It's just a body sensation.
It's just the body sensation of being stalled.
Yeah. My survival brain is convinced I'm going to die if I feel this.
My survival brain is convinced I'm going to die if I feel this.
And it wants to distract me really badly.
It wants to distract me really badly.
But the truth is, it's just a feeling in my body.
But the truth is, it's just a feeling in my body.
Eyebrow, this heavy, stuck, tired feeling.
This heavy, stuck, tired feeling.
Side of the eye with all the anxiety and tension swirled in.
With all the anxiety and tension swirled in.
Under the eye and some grief in there too.
Yeah. And some grief in there too.
Under the nose and some anger.
And some anger.
Chin and frustration.
And frustration.
Collarbone. And I'm being with those feelings right this minute.
And I'm being with those feelings right this minute.
Under the arm, and I'm tapping to let them pass through.
I'm tapping, calming my body, letting them pass through.
Top of the head. I don't have to carry them with me for the rest of my life.
I do not have to carry them with me for the rest of my life.
Just take a nice deep breath. And I encourage you to notice that if you were able to step in for even a second or two, you were able to face those feelings for that little bit of time. Each time we can tolerate and be with the feelings that we're actually feeling in our body, we build resiliency. Part of what makes someone the kind of person I want to be is someone who can feel the feelings that are really there and face them and then clear them out. I'm not saying we should suffer and wallow in them, but I want to know what's there. I want to know what my body is saying to me and not just blank it out when it tells me something that's not really pleasant to hear. So the more you can just build up, it's a building a muscle. And our brains are like, oh no, pleasure only. No, I don't want to feel that. But if we can just be there and listen for a moment, often our body doesn't have to stay there. It's like, oh, you heard me. You listened. This does feel heavy. And okay, let's move the socks.
Yeah. So before our break, I'm going to ask Noreen to unmute. You've had your hand raised and you have 5, at most 10 minutes before the break. Noreen?
Okay. Hi.
Hey, Noreen.
Well, hi. I'm in the midst of a very big move, literally and figuratively. I'm moving across the Pacific to Oahu, Hawaii. And I feel like I am being stalled by bureaucracy. For over a month, I have had my application in for a 1-bedroom apartment, a 6-month lease, not the Taj Mahal. And I'm still at this day where escrow has closed. I have to be out of here in 12 days. And I'm feeling like I don't have a landing spot. Like
Eyebrow.
I'm homeless.
Yeah. So just to be clear, this feels like stuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eyebrow. I'm feeling blocked and stuck.
I'm feeling so blocked and stuck.
I've been waiting on these people.
I've been waiting and giving them everything they wanted.
And they haven't acted.
And they haven't acted.
And it's time for me to calm myself.
And it's time for me to calm myself.
And get my own clarity here.
And get my own clarity here.
Hold on. I have the resources, so I do not need to be homeless.
I have the resources, so I do not need to be homeless.
Does that feel true? Is that
Yeah, I think that
provably
was my
true?
primitive brain going.
You heard
Yeah.
that? I heard that, and that's why we tapped on it, and that's why it's helpful, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why we do this together. Is like I heard your primitive brain. I know, yeah, that's what mine would say, right? Under the arm, and that other thing isn't opening.
Other thing isn't opening.
It is stalled.
It is stalled.
Up ahead. It has the energy of being stalled.
It has that just quick sand, slow sand feeling of being stalled.
Hmm. And I'm wondering if it's time for some compassionate self, self-empowerment or something,
And I'm
some
wondering if,
creative options.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah. So,
I'm wondering if there's some creative little self-care options
yeah.
that I
So,
can soothe myself with.
uh thank you, because the this is where something is legitimately a stall. It's outside of us. The cooperative components are not cooperating. Something's
Yeah.
not opening. You're doing your part and it's not opening. Now, this process, this skill says, oh, I'm aware of this and it's important. Having a place to live matters to me. And
Yeah.
if I start escalating and start feeling like, oh my God, I'm gonna be homeless, that's Rick's primitive brain going, this is really important.
Yeah.
We can't leave this to chance, and it's stalled. And I believe that the process that we're in, where it's like, this is important, have a home to land in, it's actually a stall. I'm doing the things, my part of it, it's a co-creation, right?
Yeah.
Your part of it is moving forward. You're providing, and it'd be different if you weren't providing the stuff. So if
Right.
you're providing what they need in a timely fashion and they're not moving, it's still the energy of a stall.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to look at, like, after we quiet the noise enough so that the trend is toward calming, how do we, like, hold it in our hands, a stalled thing, a stalled situation, in a way that builds our confidence so that we're emotionally free and savvy and empowered, and no, we can't force something to happen. So then what?
Right.
And that's,
Rick,
that's,
before we go on break, can I just lead a one quick round on just opening to new ideas?
Mhm.
Yeah, so Noreen, you can try on anything you like with this, but I invite everyone to tap along karate chop. Even though that path seems blocked,
Even though that path seems so blocked,
and I've done everything I know to do,
and I've done everything I know to do, I've been asked to do.
I ask the universe to draw my attention to anything I can do to help.
I ask the universe to draw my attention to anything I can do to help,
And to other options that might be available.
and to some other options that might be available, that I'm sure are available.
Yeah, top of the head. Hey, universe.
Hey, universe.
Eyebrow, I'm not sure if you're saying no, don't go there.
I'm not really sure if you're saying, no, don't go there,
Side of the eye, or just be patient.
or just be patient.
Under under the eye. And I'm really feeling stressed about this.
Oh, and I am so stressed and drained about this.
Under the nose, I've done everything I know to do.
I've done everything I know to do.
Chin, so I'm turning this over to you right now.
So I'm turning this over to you right now.
Collarbone, please draw my attention to anything I can do to make it better.
Please draw my attention to anything that will make it be better.
Under the arm, and if that's not a good path for me,
And if that's not a good path for me,
top of the head, please make the things I should do be really bright and shiny.
Please make the things I should do be bright and shiny and beautiful.
Nice deep breath. And I like to end those. That's kind of a prayer for me that I often do when I feel stuck or stalled or whatever I'm feeling. I'll often add to this outcome or something even better, something I couldn't have dreamed as good of. So maybe it
Yeah.
will be Taj Mahal. They're like, oh, we would like you to caretake the Taj Mahal for us for a few weeks. Are you available? And you're like, yes, as a matter of fact, I am. So, I
Thank
just
you.
invite the universe because sometimes that helps us feel like if when it's all on us and someone else isn't coming through, it can feel very heavy. And if we
Yeah,
invite the universe to help us with it, sometimes that can feel a little bit like, oh, I'm not alone with this.
thank you so much, both of you, Kathy, Rick. Oh,
I hope you
Thank
find
you.
something really wonderful, Noreen.
well, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Noreen. And so now we're going to take a 7-minute break. We'll be back at 32. And what we're going to do is we're going to pause the recording here. And if you're watching the replay, which a lot of people who are, it's in the middle of your night, will be doing, we invite you to pause here, take some time. This is a chance to take care of yourself, bio break, stretch, do what your body needs. It's also an opportunity to, if you need to calm yourself just a little bit more, or allow yourself to open to some possibilities for how you could engage with this thing that matters, that's stalled, with some creativity,
It's
some
also
other possibilities.
it's a beautiful time to do a little journaling while you're still in the container of the class, while you're still held. A lot of times some really brilliant things come up.
Okay, you're welcome to, Kathy and I are going to mute, and I'm going to turn off my video, and we'll be back at about 32, 33. Yeah,
Yeah. And I'll be monitoring the chat if you have thoughts you want to share.
okay. We're yours.
Yay, we're back. So Rick and I made a video. It's out on YouTube and we sent that out. But if you haven't seen that, someone was asking in the chat, how do you know the difference between stuck and stalled? And so I just want to give people context. If you're stuck, it's if you imagine that your truck is stuck in cement. The cement is set and you've there's no way to move forward. And we have a call in a couple weeks to go over some of the things you can do around trauma to unstick that. And stalled is that your car is on the side of the road and it's stalled. It just needs a jump start to get going. The vehicle is able to move forward. It has what it needs except for a little bit of energy to move forward. So I wanted to emphasize the difference on that. And there's nothing wrong if you're stuck versus stalled. Like we have different things in I think every human has places we're stuck and places we're stalled and some places we're running great. And our concept is to give you some steps and some concepts to move forward so that you can quickly decide which is it that I am, because that helps you discern how deep you have to go and how much help you might want to get. If my car is set in cement, I'm going to call the experts. If I'm stalled, I might be able to jumpstart it myself or ask a buddy to sit down with me and do it. So just to give you that context, if you hadn't watched those videos.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about why we stall. And so we're not a car. Cars are a lot simpler in a lot of ways compared to us. But a car can stall for a lot of different reasons, right? It could be out of gas. It could be out of juice in the battery, like the alternator isn't working or something. It can be overheated. It can be too cold. It can be a lot of different things, vapor lock. Um, there are many reasons the electronic control mechanism inside the car could have just gone, I don't know how to do spark, create spark anymore, and just lost its mind and needs to be reset or replaced or whatever. Some of that is a fix, but for us as physical beings, emotional beings, and spiritual beings, a stall, if we take a pause for a moment and or step back from okay, things are stalled, if you're thinking about other people that you know that you've noticed that may get stalled, what are some of the reasons? Well, they're tired. And what the action that matters to them really requires a level of rest and replenishment that they don't have. That it matters to them perhaps so much. And I'm not talking about perfectionism, which is a different kind of on the spectrum of caring about something so much that it actually crosses over into dysfunction as a recovering uh, perfectionist. Um, so again, like you can be depleted, and that's why you're stalled. That is a reason. It's a perfectly legitimate reason. You're a physical person. Emotionally, like just coping, as Kathy mentioned during the pandemic, maybe just taking up all of your available energy. And while you care about socks, eh, they're not as important as keeping your shit together.
Sanity. Yeah.
Right? So like I noticed some of that in my life. Like there's a quality of physical and emotional depletion that we need to replenish, and that can be a stall. There's excess, like the I've been doing so much that I'm actually revved up. My engine, my brain, everything is actually like, but what I care about is something that to do it, to be with it, to engage with it actually requires more calm presence than being manic or revved up or whatever you would call that hyper um, uh, energy. So, for example, you see this with kids, like they'll get so revved up that they can't actually get ready for bed, when getting ready for bed is actually kind of like softening into it. Um, we do that with our work too, and with things that matter. Another thing that I think is very important, because I believe it cuts to emotional freedom, is what's the frame of reference that I'm operating under. The frame of reference, for example, and I mentioned I can't do anything because I have to. If it matters to me, like this work, I couldn't have shown up tonight because I have to. I would have stalled. Like my body would have just not been congruent with that. I am so clear that I want freedom, including the freedom to not show up, not have to around things that matter, that I can stall. And that's really useful for us to know about ourselves, that the more emotional work you do, especially trauma recovery and healing, the less you'll put up with being forced, right? Like if that old noise is still there, that's what's important, to quiet down enough and then and then and then reactivate. Um, Jumpstart, like, okay, but I think that as a culture, we're a lot more into fixing and jumpstarting than replenishing and tending to, and even like getting really clear about where we're going and what matters.
And I'd like to add one more to that, Rick, is sorry about my neighbor's car. Um, if we're trying to do too much at once, if I have my little pickup truck on the side of the road and I'm trying to pull a hay wagon full of cement, it's going to stall out sometimes. It's just not going to have the energy to do it. And one of the best ways I know to get myself unstalled is to break it down into baby steps. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is I want to go through my old disk drives and clean them up. But every time I do it, I'm going through all the disk drives. And then I don't make any movement at all. And I actually got my house all cleaned up because I'm like, I'm just going to pick up this one thing and put it away. I'm just going to do the bookshelves right here, this little bit of the bookshelf. And then once I started getting some momentum, it felt so good that like I couldn't not do the rest of the bookshelf. And I wiped everything down, and the feeling of the reward of having that little bit done gave me momentum, as opposed to I am going to clean my entire house right now. And I think that we often do that. We put so much on our engine that we stall out versus, oh, what if I played the piano for 1 minute just because and let myself just enjoy the music? What if I, spend a little, just do a little bit, take off some of the weight that we're trying to tug along.
So this is, again, like, if you can't do this when you're all like so noisy,
Calm
but
it
you don't
down.
have to be calm at a 0 or even a 5. If you were loud at a 9, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And you get to the point where, I don't have to do this. You don't have to open up your trading platform. You don't have to. There's no have to there. And when we get to a place like, oh, well, if I don't have to, I don't have to.
Mhm.
I don't have to do it this way.
I don't have to do it this way.
I don't have to I don't have to land at that place
I don't
to
have to
live.
find a place to
There are
live.
other places to live.
There are other places to live.
I don't have to do it
I don't have
exactly that way.
I don't have to do it exactly that way.
Almost everything can be morphed.
Almost
Almost
everything,
everything can be morphed,
almost everything can be
molded,
molded,
modified.
modified.
What if I look at this as something that might be ripe for modification,
What if I look at this as something that might be ripe for modification,
including emotionally?
including emotionally?
Am I shitting on myself?
Am I shitting on myself?
Eyebrow. Do I see only one option?
Do I only see one option?
That's a clue.
That's a clue.
If I only see one option,
If I only see one option,
that's my primitive brain.
that's my primitive brain.
Maybe it's good that I'm stalled for a bit.
Maybe it's good that I'm stalled for a little bit.
What if there's some real intelligence in my stall?
What if there's some real intelligence in my stall?
I might be stalling because the direction isn't right for me.
I might be stalling because the direction isn't right for me.
State of being isn't right for me.
The state of being isn't right for me.
Now, again, if you calm yourself first, then those questions that I'm offering will feel like openness. If you didn't calm yourself first, those questions will feel like overwhelm. Too much to consider. That you're still in primitive brain. Love you. I test this myself. I ask myself an opening question, like, I wonder if there's another way to look at this. I go, oh, okay, I'm still in my primitive brain, even though I'm still in my primitive brain about this. And I refuse to really let myself pause. And this is the core to me of the intelligence of the stall. When I work with people that there's something that really matters to them, love, support of their family, being of service in the world, being healthy in their body, having a nest that feels nourishing to them, whatever it is, one of the things that I notice is that a stall can be a pause, an opportunity to pause. And that keeps you from having to calm very much. Like, oh, stall. Oh, okay. What if there's intelligence here? What if there's intelligence here about my body's place, my emotions, my frame, like how I'm approaching this? Do I feel like I have to do this thing? Oh, that's a clue. Do I feel like there's only one way to get housing or one way to make money for my family, even though it was a past gift? Do I feel like I have to do it that way? That is such a clue. I would love, when we feel there's only one choice, it's such useful information. It's gold. It says, oh, primitive brain, and it's time for me to pause. And maybe write down some other options. So to use my example, I've had in my mind this idea that what I have to do for the grounding for calm and confidence is do a video. Well, if I've only had 3 hours of sleep, I may not want to sit and record a video. And today, following these steps in preparation, what I noticed was, all you really need to do is put a couple of paragraphs in there, and that's better than nothing. Really? That's great. What about an audio? Oh, that might, What about asking Kathy? Tell her what you're trying to accomplish here and see if she wants to do record a video together. You see, like if I have multiple options, well, now the stall becomes a pause and a choice. I have an action to take. I hope that this is clear and that it's useful to you. It is one of the life-changing things for me is to notice if I feel like there's only one way to accomplish something. And I may not notice it for 3 weeks. I may not notice it for 3 weeks. Got a little heat coming up. But that's the way the brain works when it's sometimes stalled, is the insight doesn't really open up for a while. Okay.
And I do like the idea of noticing that sometimes a stall is the universe's way of saying you might be going in the wrong direction, or our inner being, our true self. It's a lot easier to course correct when you're stalled on the side of the road than when you're going 75 miles an hour down the road, very determined to get there. So I do like the little, it's a silly analogy, but I used to ride dressage when I was younger, and they would call them half halts. You would just kind of gather the horse and like slow it down. Like it was in between, like you were just kind of like, let's pull back and ground ourselves and check in. And so like if you're really stalled, that's something to check. Am I aligned with doing this thing, or what the vision of it is? I was thinking of when someone shared about doing the collage. Like what if you picked up one piece that felt really delicious and just see where you might want to put it on the collage? It might be that your cognitive brain has a vision of what it would look like, and some part of you is not really aligned with that, or it's not how your
Maybe the collage is going to be spread out all over the house, or that it's something that like again, you notice how if I'm not stuck about something, I can almost always come up with 5 alternatives for someone. And because I can do that when it's not me and I'm not stalled, to me it says if I can't do that for myself, then I'm in a different place. And with the time that we have, I want to move into like the confidencing. What does that mean? So confidencing is my energetic way of saying, hey, we want to put energy into it. So let's say that you've calmed and you've gotten a little clearer about what's going on and some options. And maybe you don't have your decision yet. You can confidence yourself by what makes this important to me. So Kathy, when you think about like those hard drives,
Mhm.
and we can all do this about what matters, what makes them matter to you?
It's a lot of experiences and things I've created over the last 14 years working with you that I don't want to lose. Yeah, I'd like to, I'd like to have them organized so I can pull bits and pieces out to include when it feels right and I know exactly where everything is.
Right. So like having it as an accessible resource, as something
Mhm,
that is archival, right?
mhm.
And how does it feel to you to know that you're the kind of person that matters to you?
I like it. I like them, the kind of person that I've created. I really care about. Like I love that each of you are here right now, improving your lives. I imagine it ripples out in the world, and I like that I'm the kind of person that's created things that could hopefully help people live better lives, so that ripples out in the world, and that we can all together make the kind of world we want to live in. So
Mhm.
I feel pleased that I was someone who wanted to create that, and delighted that there's people here that are hopefully using some of that energy and thought to make their lives better and lives around them.
I know a lot of people in the chat mentioned about like their nest. I call it a
Mhm.
nest because a nest feels different than a house. And to me, maybe my inner bird likes the idea. What what about like whatever you're feeling stalled around related to your home, your nest, what makes it matter to you? And if you're like, oh, I hate mess, flip it on, like, okay, I hate mess because I really like what? You like a place that nourishes your energy or that is naturally calming, that feels warm, um, that is a sanctuary. I'm offering some energies that I- are common, but they're not yours. So please, let's take a moment and if you're thinking about like an action, like I'm going to go trade and make money, take 3 steps back. Like I'm going to trade and make money because, and I want to make more money for my family because, and I want the feeling of, and I'm the type of person that this matters to. You're kind of working your way back. If it's really noisy to up close, literally standing back, taking yourself back from it rather than trying to push yourself forward and get clear about why this matters to me. And again, I'm guessing that it matters to you for more than one reason. It matters to you and like, yeah. Um, this is called like stacking energy. So if you think about one color rainbow, well, that's nice. And if you're in the mood for red, like my shirt, which isn't a rainbow color, but like if you're in the mood for red and that's the color that you got, oh, what a pretty red rainbow. But one of the reasons why this is really helpful as a skill, like if I'm working with someone who has a project that it matters to them, it's complex, having a variety of ways that it matters to them. So like, I like a challenge. I really do. And this is an area of growth for me. And I like having something that is going to impact other people's lives in a positive way. And this project has that potential. And I like that. I
And
like
I think
that, I, it nourishes my family and we're going to eat this weekend. um, but my
and I think
dog, my cat is going to have, the care that it needs. And I love them. And that
and
makes sense.
I think it's really important to notice if you're building your rainbow out of colors that don't agree with you, that are not really your
Um,
favorite colors. I'm doing this because my mother would be happy and she would want me to do this, and I don't really want to do it. I'm doing it because society expects me to do it. I think that I have to do it. Your rainbow stack is not things that are really aligned, then I really invite you to ask yourself, why am I actually, like Rick said, I don't do things well when I'm forced or obligated. And yet many of us have internal voices, the shoulds that are floating around. And we'll get fixated on things sometimes that, oh, I should do this. So notice what color your stack is. Like, are there colors in it that don't fit you? And can you eliminate them or adjust where you're going so that it really feels aligned to you? Often cleaning that up and creating an abundance and joy of things you want to create it because of can really help you move forward with it.
Um, Duty and obligation are not emotional freedom. We're really about emotional freedom. And I believe that there are things, duty and obligation is like poop in the soup for freedom loving people. A little bit of duty and obligation feeling just makes it poop soup. And so, for example, I'll use a tax example. If I feel like I have to pay my taxes, I won't. I will do it. I will wait to the last minute. And one of the things that works for me is like kind of like being someone who treats taxes as matter of fact. It requires work, but I like that. And it's an opportunity to reflect on the year past, but also to prepare my energy for the year to come. Um, I can actually feel some gratitude that I don't have to do it on paper. Uh, yeah, there's lots of noise, and I don't need to stack a lot of things to move on something that is an obligation on one hand, but there's a way of tuning that. But again, like for our purpose here, something that matters to you, like your home. Um, you look at, if I look at the dishes and I'm tired, I've been up today since 4. I had a nice 40-minute nap. But like when I looked at the dishes, I was like, now I paused there. Now, if it was 3 days past and none of us had done the dishes, that would be a stall. But like I paused, and why does this matter to me? Well, I don't like it when if I get up at 4 in the morning and the sink is clear, that's a gift to my future tired self because I can just, and
Holding a baby with one arm and not having to.
and I know that my partner is gonna feel that. And the ants, I'd rather have them eat outside than inside. I'm the weirdo that way. I just, I don't, I'd rather have the ant feeding outside rather than in. Um, and that's where you start activating. And for long-term things that don't, like, a lot of the things that matter to us, this is another thing that can help. They really don't fall into the success or failure. They fall into, I'm engaging with this because it's dear to me. It's so dear to me that I want to bring my artistry to it. I want to put my energy into my nest and my community, and that matters to me on a lot of different levels. You'll start feeling your energy guiding you to something in that. And if you get noisy, quiet it down a little bit. There's an idea that I think came in tapping, and I certainly contributed to it very early on, that you had to take your anxiety, your stress, your overwhelm, and get it to a 0. It is not true. When the calming starts going down, if you can build up your confidencing, so the confidence is 2 or 3 points higher than the noise, you can take inspired action. You can. You'll have the energy for it. If you try to confidence when the noise is way up, then the noise will go with it. The noise is escalating. Oh, it just like chases it. So there's this yin yang kind of, okay, I'm pausing here. I may not want to, but I'm pausing. And then I'm tuning into, like, what do I need? What is the energy of the situation calling for? Is there another way to look at it and perhaps try something different for 20 minutes? And then why is it important to me? Get that activation energy, the confidencing, and you'll take inspired action.
Yeah, and another way to do that is to take the small steps. Just rather than I have to clean the entire house, what if I just put the socks in the laundry? What if I just organized a couple books and just noticed that felt good? And appreciation can really help. A lot of times we're like, you didn't clean the whole house, as opposed to, yay, you moved the socks. And that's a muscle that we can build. It builds confidence. How we talk to ourselves builds momentum and confidence. So if you notice you're beating yourself up or you're stalled, if you can, just pause and say, oh, it's okay. I have this old habit of doing these things. And now I'm going to try to practice turning it around. And anytime we learn something new or do something we haven't done a lot of, what might be awkward, it's okay. Just a little bit of practice over and over, you start getting your muscles build up and it gets easier and easier. And I just want to appreciate each one of you who showed up today. There are a lot of people, we're still in the pandemic. There's a lot of people really stuck and just sitting home on their couch watching Seinfeld reruns right now. And you all have the option to do that. And instead you showed up here, and maybe you felt some feelings that felt tough, and maybe you faced some things, but you were here and you tapped on it, and you gave your system a little bit of an opening, a little bit of a doorway. And even if it only shifts it a little bit, it starts changing the trajectory of your life. Each time you pause and correct to go in a way that feels aligned to you, each time you learn how to get yourself out of a stall or you comfort yourself when you're stuck, you start making a difference in your life. And I'm just really touched that you're the kind of person that would spend your time and energy here. I imagine each time we do that, we create role models. We're walking through the world a little different, and we show other people energetically that something more is possible. And you created that tonight. So I'm really honored to be here with Rick and with each of you creating that world.
And there's the savoring. There's
Mhm.
the, when we're stuck and we do this, we apply some skill and we get the pleasure of taking an action that feels really congruent, as you said, Kathy. And then we take a moment and a breath. Like, that was a moment. That was a worthy moment of my life force, my energy, and the heaviness starts lifting, and you can be more present with what is in the now, the thriving now.
If you want more of this, thrivingnow.com/circle. Rick has a group coaching program. And the center, we can jump in and get support in between calls.
Thriving Now Center. Thank you all. And these continue. Our next one and will be
The 23rd, I believe.
yes, Sunday the 23rd, trauma relief from scared and timid to calm and confident. And we're going to be dropping into some of these blocks and specific traumas. And yeah, you're invited because it's a real skill. And we're the type of people that practice that.
Yeah.
So useful, so empowering.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Have a great night.
Bye for now.